Diamonds are forever.
So I mentioned in a previous video that I have a daily practice around trying to make further contact with my daimon, my higher self, my inner self. And so one of the things that I do around that is an idea that I got or I heard Israel Regardie talk about. Israel Regardie was Aleister Crowley's assistant, and he was the guy that kind of revealed to the world, hey, here's what goes on inside the Golden Dawn, and here's the rituals and stuff that Crowley was involved in. And so one of the things he talks about is invoking and inflaming, is I think what he calls it. At least that's what I call it. And it's basically prayer. Like, it's basically really passionate, really heartfelt, really inflamed prayer. And so in the Golden Dawn practice, it was you were praying to, you were invoking, you were becoming inflamed with prayer around the idea of your holy guardian angel, which is another way to think about, I think, the daimon. It's a guiding spirit. Some people in the Golden Dawn imagined it as an outside entity. I tend to think of it as an internal entity, but I also try to be pretty agnostic about these things. If I see the thing outside of me, I'm like, okay, cool. So I'm not proselytizing for one point of view. And if you believe it's the entity that you're invoking and inflaming with prayer towards is an inside entity, it gets kind of weird because you're kind of praying to yourself. And my evangelical roots really just like, that feels weird. But again, trying to be agnostic here. So today I did 10 minutes of invoking an inflamed prayer. And so when I do it, I have a Muse headset, so I wear the Muse headset because I want to kind of keep track of how deep into the alpha state am I able to get, at what point does my monkey mind kind of shut off and I really am able to focus on what I'm doing. And so I did that for about 10 minutes today, and around the 8th minute, I became really, and it happened slowly, it wasn't sudden. I became slowly aware, my hands were resting on my knees. I became slowly aware of what felt like pressure pushing down on my hands, almost as if somebody had their hands on top of mine. And here's the really hard part to explain. Even though I was sitting in the chair, I felt like I was also the person with their hands on top of my hands. And I know that doesn't make sense. But I just felt very aware of the pressure, and I felt like I was in two places at once, kind of. And so I don't have any desire to try and present that to somebody as some kind of objective fact, or prove how that could have happened, or prove that I'm not psychotic. It was a subjective experience, and as such, it was kind of just for me in that moment. And if somebody was like, what a nut job, that's fine. And so I had that experience. And something else I do as part of my practice is I practice divination. So maybe that's tarot cards, or maybe it's the Burroughs cut-up method that he did, where he cut up partial phrases out of magazines and then put them in a thing and would draw them one at a time to see if it made a sentence. And then once a week, I toss the I Ching, and I've found that really super valuable. And we can get into in another video why I think divination is helpful and all this stuff. But so I pulled a tarot card, and this is the card I pulled, the Moon card. And so you can do divination lots of different ways. There's kind of the white book interpretation, where these cards have specific historic meanings, and so you can pull them that way. When I'm working with my daimon and trying to make contact there, I don't do traditional meanings. I just kind of look at the card and say, what do I think it's saying? How are the images speaking to me? What are potential archetypal meanings happening here? And for me, after I'm still kind of riding high on this experience of the invoking and the inflaming, I pull this card, and man, to me, the first thing my subconscious said points out that these two dogs passionately howling at the moon, one's invoking, one's inflaming. And so to me, and the question I asked the cards was, how do I continue to make continued meaningful contact with my Daimon? And this kind of seemed like, hey, you're on the right track with the invoking and the inflaming, is what this card said to me. So the higher potential self is that face in the moon, and then the two dogs passionately howling are the invoking and the flaming. I haven't really touched on the lobster, but maybe I'll look into that later. So anyway, those are some of the practices I use, and this morning was a really meaningful and productive experience. So anyway, feel free to tell me in the comments that I'm insane, or tell me about your experiences, or ask questions, whatever you got going on. So anyway, hope you guys are enjoying these. I'm really enjoying doing them, and I'll see you soon.